continuing, let's talk about money. Now, before we got, briefed on a couple basic things. What does money mean on a basic level? How is it used? So on and so forth. But definitely, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Mark Passio. If you guys haven't heard about him or looked into his work, look into it. He does phenomenal breakdowns on everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. And part of what he has helped me to get a better comprehension of is a concept called green language. And basically, in a nutshell, what green language is basically, I guess you could say, like almost a cryptic or a symbolic way of speaking through like words and like kind of like that word sound power. Okay, so for example, there's like a message within a word, or word kind of how it is spoken or said can kind of take on an esoteric meaning. So when you look into the word money, how we break the syllables down as far as saying it, in English at least, is mon and e, or I. So the M-O-N, what's the M-O-N? Not Monday, but that is when the the work week begins. But M-O-N, it's like a variant spelling of mono. And like mono, e-mono, mono, meaning one. And then when we get to the E-Y, or the E-Y-E, if you will, because notice even on the back of the $1 bill, what do they have? The one eye. What's that one eye about? Well, not that necessarily just that one eye, but the EY is a kind of like a variant spelling of I. So when you put it together, you get mono and I, the one eye. What's the one eye? It's here, the mental, the frontal lobe, the mind, the mind's eye, as they would say. So just bringing that connection there. Why is that important, or is this all semantics, whatever? Some will argue that it is, and just hit the end button here and stop right here and not really look into it. But if you're going to continue to watch, listen, and learn, you can recognize that it has a connection to everything. Because think about it. What isn't for sale? Water's for sale, food, clothing, shelter, cars, gas. We can go on with this forever. Everything's for sale, essentially. And maybe even your soul is for sale. And the reason why I bring that up is not just, somebody quote-unquote selling out, but what you do and how you think. It all comes down to your mind and what you feel is important, what you accept as being true, and kind of your behavior patterns all start in the mental. And something I wanted to bring up that was interesting that happened while I was at work. Okay, like I said, I worked in retail for a while, and I do a little bit of work in retail now. So there was a customer that they had gotten something shipped out to them. They ordered something off of our company website, and it wasn't what they ordered. And what they ordered, if you're in the East Coast of America right now, it's not like super cold just yet, but it's transitioning into fall. So some people, will, do a little bit of shopping that end of summer, specials or different deals that are going on. They wanted I guess you could say like a summer shoe, right? And a summer shoe was probably, give or take a few dollars in the ballpark area of about like $30, right? So they ordered it, they were expecting to get this shoe, didn't get it, they got something else. Now, what was interesting is that what they ended up receiving, although it wasn't specifically a summer shoe of what they were shopping for, it ended up, by comparison, being a lot more expensive. This one, this item, not going to get into the specifics of what it is and all of that stuff, but this item was on the, the other side of like $100. So it was like definitely over $100. And you pay $30 and then you're expecting to get one thing, and you get this other shoe that for a fact is a lot more expensive. what would you do? I had to think about that for a second. Like, wow, some people would say, oh, well, that's America. God bless, you got something extra. You got more for your money. The system, you deserve something from the system as rigged and as messed up as it is. And that might be true in a limited sense, but the reason why I brought it up is because this customer had to go out of their way. I would say drive at least 20, 25 miles to come back to our particular store. Now, he didn't get it from our store, and I'm sure there might have been, other ways of handling the situation. But for whatever reason, they decided to come to our store and asked, could they return it? Say, I got this offline, so on and so forth. I have my information. Could I return it here? Because I just want the shoes that I ordered. And I thought, wow, how many people today put in that situation knowing that you essentially, I don't want to say you could get away with it, but nothing negatively could happen to you for keeping the shoe that the company sent you. Now, for people that know how business works, when something like that happens, if a customer decides they don't want to return it or whatever, they have the right to do that. But eventually, when everything comes full circle, at the end of the year or whenever the warehouse or however that works does their inventory, they'll realize the wrong product went out. It was more expensive. They shipped it out and it was cheaper. And the company takes a loss in that somehow. Whether it's a big loss or a small loss, it is a monetary loss to some degree. But even with that being said, the customer, knowing they would have, not essentially totally being the wrong by keeping it, they decide to, I guess you could say do the right thing and return the product anyway. And I thought, wow, out of, say that happens to 100 people, what is the percentage of people that would actually return the product or go out of their way to just correct the situation? And I would say being generous, maybe 10% of people would do that. So if we're doing the math, like out of 100 people, you might get 10 that would do that, or maybe even consider it. And out of that 10% that may or may not do it, there's probably I'm safe in saying 9 out of 10 people would not have done that. And it's not to say they would always be wrong for the reason not doing it. Maybe it would be a hassle for them to really go out of their way, whatever. But the fact that most people, I feel as though, wouldn't do that, and I feel like it's justified in today's society to say most people wouldn't do that. Why would they not do that? And it's because of that, like I said, getting back to the whole green language thing, that mind's eye. What controls your soul, your psyche, your thoughts? Because we know your thoughts lead to your emotion, which lead to your action. What would prevent people from doing something like that? In a nutshell, I would say that the reason people wouldn't do that is because they have such a tight hook on money itself that any potential quote-unquote gain or advantage, people would do it just for the sake of it's an advantage, And, last week, another anniversary of 9/11 just passed. It was, it's been about 13 years now. And there's so-called conspiracy theories, although the official story can be called a conspiracy theory based upon physics and everything else. But people say, oh, the government, they couldn't do this to their own people, and it can't be an inside job, so on and so forth. But for the sake of argument, I guess you could say, and hypothetically, maybe I'll do a 9/11 video as far as my personal take on that and all the, the facts and investigation behind it. But just for the sake of argument, if that was hypothetically an inside job, which means there had to be some type of coercion and different things going on. And people say, well, maybe the planes didn't hit, maybe it was like a missile, or maybe it was a droid plane. There's been evidence and documents out there about, military remote control planes. Maybe something like that happened. And I thought that was interesting, because say something like that does happen or did, and there's like some kind of substitution. It wasn't a commercial airliner, so commercial airliner is supposed to take off and go and fly off somewhere to its destination. And in the middle of this happening, maybe it gets redirected and certain things happen, and somebody, I don't know, maybe they work for whoever, and they say to the people that's supposed to be attending this flight, now something's going to happen, and we want to make sure that the people that we're trying to convince of a certain thing, they have something that they can believe in. So by you doing this, you're actually doing a good deed that's going to help with security and protection for not just you and your family, but the country. But there's a little coercion that has to happen in order to make these things possible. Now this is top secret, so on and so forth, and we'll pay you to either be somebody speaks on TV, as far as being a witness, or somebody who is like I don't know, just in the background, just somebody who you're not supposed to speak on everything that happens. We're going to put our official story. You won't have to say anything, just keep quiet, and we'll pay you off handsomely to do so. And again, just using percentages, or out of 100 people, how many people do you think, with whatever that money would be, $1 million, $500,000, $5 million, whatever, however much they want to print up and distribute to these people, how many out of 100 or 100% would you think would actually do it and say, it's going to happen anyway, the people are going to think what they're going to think, I was out wherever on probably a business trip, because it's September, maybe some people are on vacation, but in 2001 it was a Tuesday morning, so most people were handling business or doing something accordingly to their everyday life. So what percentage of people would take off that handsome payoff and keep hush hush with the official story, quote unquote? I'm at about the same percentage as that. About 9 out of 10, 90% of people would take the money and run for whatever reason, and they can be self-justified reasons as to why they think it was beneficial for them to take the money again. Maybe they were in a bind or really needed it or whatever. But just the fact that people are so closely tied to this system and means of exchange, they will probably do anything for it. I know that sounds unfair, or that's coming down with a heavy hammer and stuff, but think about this, even getting to a biblical perspective of things, right? And I noticed the difference between people in this world and I guess you could say God's perspective on a matter. Look at something like gold. People are fascinated by gold. It's shiny, it's cool, people get necklaces, all type of jewelry, wedding rings made out of gold. Even celebrities, they'll have 10 gold chains on, big ones, whatever. People place a certain value on gold, and that's just not just gold, but diamonds and say, but just gold, if you will, sticking to that. Notice how people will go through all of these different things, means to get it, brag about having it, right? But on a biblical level, what does it say about gold? Now, in reference to, I guess you could say, a perfect heavens and the earth, it say the streets would be, paved with gold, right? So as important as gold is, because it is important to God, but on the level of I guess you could say value, the way he is trying to project onto humanity his value of gold is that he views it as something like traditionally today we would use for our roads. Like, so by comparison, he views gold the way humans would view like gravel or concrete or something of that effect, where, you know, people would be driving over it with their cars, walking on it, you know, with their feet or their shoes and different things like that. That's how he views it. Now notice how strange it would be if we had today, just bear with me for the example of a celebrity that got this big chain or watch or ring or something that was made out of like concrete or gravel and was bragging about it. Like, oh, I got this new, you know, whatever, I got it, and look, it's shiny, I did this, that, and the third, I shined it up, it's all that, I spent a bunch of money on it. People would look at this person like they are out of their mind. Like, are you crazy? Like, it's just concrete, it's just gravel, big deal. We use that to, you know, make roads. We use that, you know, especially if you're in this area of the country, there's a lot of potholes and stuff. You might need a couple, you should have took that off and filled that pothole down the street so, you know, we aren't messing up our tires, you know. But that's how, you know, and to make a comparison in God's perspective, that's how he views gold. But look how we view it. People get, you know, they'll quote unquote, I'll do anything to have this gold. And it's not just jewelry and different things. Look at the, you know, trophies, awards, and different things that are made out of gold, and how people, you know, kind of take away from themselves and take on a persona of being somebody else to get these awards and do different things. So I think that's interesting of itself too, because even by comparison, if you look at certain jobs or quote unquote careers, and people complain, why do athletes make so much money? You know, all they do is work out and play games and do different stuff. Everybody would love to have that life. Or, you know, singers, some of them can't even sing. They got these producers and, you know, engineers making their voice sound better. They make all this money. Doctors, teachers, so on and so forth. They're underpaid. Well, you can't have it both ways. In this system, the way money is distributed, they're not overpaid from the standpoint that you are what the market says you're worth, basically. When people have careers, some of them will do things only for some people will do things only for the money. Some people are doing things they like. So even if they know it's not the highest paying career, or some people think it's not the most important, they'll do it anyway because that's what they want to do, and that's fine. But the thing is, you can't have it both ways. You can't have a system where all type of money can be made in different things. And most of these people that are complainers are the ones that are most entertained or tied to like the celebrity gossip, this, that, and the third, what's going on. And then you wonder why they get paid so much. It's because people are supporting that system. But the other side is just basically from a, I guess you could say, a distraction standpoint. Those people play some of the biggest roles in keeping people's mind, their mind's eye, their mental, their, you know, eye, if you will, tied to activities, ways of thinking, and trying to be these personalities, like vicariously trying to live through these people that they quote unquote make their idols, which in a sense the word idol can also represent and mean God. You're putting that person as your God, your idol, your, you know, one true worshipful entity that you strive to be like. And how did you strive to be like that? Well, because you look at their success, and their success is gauged off of the monetary compensation for their job or career. So, with that being said, you can't have it both ways. Either the system is corrupt and we have to fix it as a whole, starting from what we do and how we do it, or you're going to have to say, you know, this is the present reality in that sense, but there's a way to be balanced and, you know, be in the world but not of it, and people can do whatever it is they do, and you're not totally connected and tied to it. Because I'm not to make, you know, fun or poke criticism at people, but I do feel like even with the whole people that agree with a lot of Alex Jones' take on different things, and sports is rigged, different things that happen. It's a multi-billion-dollar entity. Most likely, not even gonna say most likely, there is some rigging going on to a certain extent. I mean, even if you look at the Super Bowl, they charge like what, $1 million per every 30 seconds. And if you look at the NFL, if you do follow football, notice that the team or the stadium in which the Super Bowl is hosted that year, that team is either not in the playoffs, or they'll never make it to the Super Bowl the year they host it, because it's counterproductive to the whole system as far as people traveling in the media and different things. It's a big boost for the city's economy that week, or that 2 weeks the bye week and that week of leading up to the Super Bowl Sunday. It's very, very huge business investment, and the NFL is not going to take chances on that, and not going to be able to justify the high price tag of a Super Bowl commercial if part of the interest is taken away because you have the hometown advantage. They will not let that happen. But saying all that to say this, whether there is some type of manipulation or not, it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy the sport for what it is. These are talented athletes. This is some intricate things going on, and part of the areas of human behavior, entertainment is one aspect. But again, it needs to be balanced. You can't be so caught up in entertainment you lose grip of the real world and having a life outside of those things. You gotta have some balance. So one of the ways you can do that is take it for what it is. I'm not saying you should stop watching sports altogether or be envious of these athletes because they're making money, but you might want to ease up with going to games with your shirt off and your face painted. Think about why you would do that. As an adult, why would you do that? Even if you're a kid or you're allowing your kid to do it, I guess you can get away with that somewhat, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. But even if you did, they're kids. Why would you as an adult do that? I don't know. Think about it. And, we'll pick it up in the next part, just talking more about why people do what they do for the money, different jobs or careers attached to making certain amounts of money, and what does their role play in your everyday life. But consider some of the things thus far and stay tuned. More to come.